Hey everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it is time once again for another What I Watched in the Last Month video. This time would be for February 2023. I'm returning to this format after an experiment with my sort of animated, overly produced attempt at making this video, which would make about a 2-minute long video that nobody would watch, which is weird because, you think people would want to watch something that is short. But apparently you guys like the fact that I talk about the movies in these videos rather than just giving you a 4-star or 5-star rating or whatever the hell it is that I give a movie. And I appreciate that. So thank you for voting in my poll to bring this format back. I won't mess with it anymore. So let's get into the movies that I watched in February of 2023. First movie I watched was The Last Action Hero from 1993. I've already done a review video on the channel, so I won't really get into it. I'll just say that it was kind of a mess. I enjoyed most of it. It was a little too long and could have used some editing, but I gave it a, what did I give it? I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. The next movie I watched was a movie called The Phantom, and it was made in 2021, I believe. Yep. And I'm looking at my notes here because I can't possibly remember everything that I watched last month. The Phantom is on Netflix, and it's a true crime story about the killer or the killing of a woman named Wanda Lopez at a gas station. And a man was put to death, found guilty and put to death for her murder, but he maintained his innocence the whole time. And this movie looks at the possibility that this murder could have been committed by somebody completely different. And it's forgettable. Like, I really had to look and try to, I couldn't remember what the movie was about when I saw it, that I had watched it, because a lot of the true crime stuff that I watch, mostly with my wife, kind of blends together, and, I can't remember what each individual one is about. But if you like true crime stuff, you'll probably like this, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, you may have heard of this movie. I watched a little movie called Star Wars from 1977. I actually went to the theater to see this. There was an event, my wife's work, her co-workers are huge Star Wars fans, and they actually hosted a sort of a thank you event for some of their customers and invited them to bring their kids and their families to see Star Wars in the theater. And it was just a really good time. They gave away prizes and stuff. Of course, I love Star Wars. It's one of my favorite films of all time. And I really don't have to get into too much detail about it. I'm sure you've heard of it, but it's a 5 out of 5 stars for Star Wars. But it was great to see it on the big screen after, I don't remember the last time I saw Star Wars on the big screen. Probably wasn't since the special editions came out in 97. Next was another movie from Netflix, or maybe Hulu. I'm not sure. I think it was Hulu. But it is called My Old School, and it's about a guy who actually goes back to his old school as a student many, many years after his graduation. And I don't want to give too much away. Alan Cumming is in it, and I think, yeah, it's from 2022. It's kind of a mixture of animation, and Alan Cumming plays the character that the movie is about. But it's interesting because he actually lip syncs an interview. The guy that the movie is actually about didn't want to appear on camera and give away his current appearance, although he does appear in some archival footage from the past. But Alan Cumming plays his role, and it's kind of interesting to see him throw his acting skills behind just lip syncing somebody else's voice. It's an interesting story, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I watched a movie called Bigfoot, The Lost Coast Tapes. This is a film that I picked up, I think, at Big Lots on DVD. Not a particularly great movie, but if you like found footage films and you like Bigfoot, you might get a kick out of it. It subscribes to the sort of less is more school of filmmaking. It doesn't show a whole lot. and kind of keeps you in the dark literally about about a lot of things. Doesn't show too much. I don't believe at any point you actually see a full figure Bigfoot. Um, it's a little it's a little ambitious for what it can deliver, but it was interesting. It kept my interest for the entire running time. It's still not that great, and I'll give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I went to the theater to see A Man Called Otto, starring Tom Hanks, and this was surprisingly good. I didn't expect a lot from it. I thought it was going to be overly sappy and manipulative, for lack of a better word. But it actually wasn't. It was really good. Tom Hanks was surprisingly good as this grumpy old guy named Otto, who has to deal with some new people moving into his neighborhood. He's got a reason for being as grumpy as he is. He's resistant to change. I won't give away too much of the plot, but it is worth seeing for Tom Hanks' performance. And there's some other notable performances in it too. I'm surprised that Hanks wasn't considered for an Oscar for this film. But I guess, there was a lot of competition this year, a lot of great performances, so he probably didn't make the grade. But hopefully he was up there in the voting. But it's worth seeing, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up was a movie that I got from Dollar Tree, actually, called Freaks, and this is probably the biggest surprise of the entire month. And the movie was made in 2018, and I really don't want to tell you a whole lot about the plot. It features, forget the guy's name, Emil Hirsch and Bruce Dern, Grace Park, Amanda Crew, and Lexi Kolker plays a young girl. And it's just a really interesting science fiction movie that's kind of a slow burn, so you have to stick with it. I really enjoyed the way it sort of spools out information just a little bit at a time, just enough to keep you hooked. And then by the end of the movie, it really reels you in. I really enjoyed it, and it's probably the biggest surprise of the month so far. Well, of the month so far that I've talked about. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Good movie. Search it out, especially if you're into Dollar Tree movies. It's really easy to find. Freaks. Next up, I watched The Menu, and this I picked up on Blu-ray. This was not at all what I expected. It has a great cast. Nicholas Hoult, Ray Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy. I talked a little bit about it in my February 2023 pickups video. Just a brilliantly twisted movie. I knew it was going to be about food. I thought it was going to be more about cannibalism, to be honest, and it's not. That's all I'll say, but it is kind of a twisted movie, and it's sort of bitingly funny, pardon the pun, but it's really worth seeing. And I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I watched a movie on Amazon Prime called Randy Rhodes, Reflections of a Guitar Icon. It's a documentary on Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist Randy Rhodes, who was tragically killed in a freak accident in 1982. But the movie actually deals more with his youth and his upbringing and his involvement in the original version of Quiet Riot in the late 70s and early 80s. There's a lot of archival footage of Randy Rhodes playing with Quiet Riot that I hadn't seen before. Your mileage may vary on this type of movie if you're not into heavy metal or aren't interested in Randy Rhodes or don't care who Randy Rhodes is. I doubt this is going to sway you too much because, unfortunately, the stuff that really made him a household name is the work he did with Ozzy, and apparently the producers of the film were unable to secure or unwilling to secure the rights to that music, so you don't hear any of his fantastic playing with Ozzy. You do, though, hear a lot of live stuff that he did with Quiet Riot. There is one extended solo that is shown that kind of gives you an idea of his talent. But for a movie that really speaks volumes about the guy, it doesn't show a whole lot of what he was capable of, which is a shame. It really deserved the inclusion of the Ozzy material, but still very interesting if you're into metal or Randy Rhodes or Ozzy or Quiet Riot. or are just interested in hearing about what it was like to be an up-and-coming musician in the Los Angeles area in the early 80s. And that one I give a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That one's on Amazon Prime, so you could find that pretty easy. Next is 0 Hour, and this is from 1957. I did a review of this already. It is the movie that was the basis of Airplane from 1980. Was basically a remake of 0 Hour, and the funny thing about this is that I sat down watching 0 Hour having no idea that this was the film that inspired Airplane. I discovered it as I was watching it, going, wait, this seems really familiar. And then I paused the movie and looked it up. You can hear more of my thoughts about the movie on the review that I did last week on the channel. But I gave it I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a B movie, and it's an effective thriller. But when you know where a lot of these lines ended up, which is the next movie that I watched, Airplane. When you know where those lines ended up, it has sort of a whole new relevance, so it's more interesting to watch than it is. It's more interesting to watch as a curio than it is as a good movie, but I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Airplane, though, is the movie that I watch next, and it's an all-time classic, 5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, it's really fun to do a double feature of 0 Hour and Airplane. 0 Hour is available on Hulu, and Airplane I own on Blu-ray, so I just watched that. But yeah, you know Airplane, it's a classic, and I don't really need to say more than the fact that I love it, and it's just fantastic. And then the last movie that I watched in February was a little movie called Cocaine Bear, and I just posted a review of that movie yesterday. So take a look at that. I had a great time watching it. I thought it was, for what it is, it's an excellently stupid movie. Some people have complained that it didn't go far enough on the murderous bear angle. I thought you kind of had to balance that with at least somewhat of a story, and the story doesn't matter. But I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. So there you go. Those are the movies that I watched in February of 2023. As always, if you've made it this far into the video, I humbly thank you for doing so, and would ask that if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell to be notified of future content. And as always, give the video a thumbs up, because it really helps the channel, helps spread the word about what I'm doing here, and I would really appreciate it. As always, thanks for watching, and take it easy.